Okay, thank you. All right, it's 6:33. I'd like to call our county board meeting to order. A roll call, please.
Anderson,
Here.
Bergson, Carter, Cowart, Esri,
Here.
Harper, Harrison, Hartke,
Here.
Jay, Kibler,
Here.
Maxwell, McGuire, Michaels, Mitchell, Quisenberry, Rosales,
Here.
Schrader, Schwartz, Weibel, Alex, Petrie.
Here. The next item on the agenda is the reading for this evening. And to start us off for our 2 years together, I have chosen something that's attributed to Daniel H. Burnham, which I think lays the groundwork for what we'll be working on these next 2 years. Make no small plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood, and probably themselves will not be realized. Make big plans, aim high and hope and work, remembering that a noble logical diagram once recorded will never die, but long after we are gone will be a living thing asserting itself with ever-growing insistency. Remember that our sons and grandsons are going to do things that would stagger us. Let your watchword be order and your beacon beauty. Pledge allegiance. Will you please read the notice of the meeting?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on December 18th, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. in the Lyle Childs Meeting Room, Brooklands Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Place on file, please. I will accept a motion for the approval of the agenda and the addendum for this evening. It's Max. Is there a second? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say aye. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go through the appointments that I have proposed for the coming 2 years. I did send those out to you electronically, so you would have a chance to review them a bit before we discuss them this evening. And what?
I was thinking we needed 2 votes, one for the, don't we usually have 2 votes, one for the, to approve the?
There was no vote on the reading the notice of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. We'll take these one at a time, and starting with the appointment of the deputy chairs for each of the areas of interest. And I will read those out. Is there a copy for me?
Point of order, point of order.
Yes.
The county board rules state that the chair, that appointments be made from floor only. So if I may proceed with a motion. I
Yes.
move that the rules that appointments be made from floor only be suspended for the rest of this meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed to the motion, please say aye. All right, the rules are suspended. All right, what I am putting forth for the chairs for the main committees of the county board for the next 2 years is finance chair is Chris Alex, policy chair is James Quisenberry, Justice Chair is Astrid Bergson. Facilities Chair, Gary Maxwell. Elect Chair is Aaron Esri. And Highway Chair is Lorraine Coward. I would accept a motion to accept those as the nominees for those 6 chairs.
You made a motion from your position. I will second that motion.
All right, thank you. The motion has been made and seconded for these 6 individuals to be considered as the chairs of the 6 committees for the next 2 years. It's open for discussion. There's no discussion? All right, all those in favor of the proposed nomination of these 6 individuals for the 6 main chairs of the county board for the next 2 years, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. Thank you very much. Next are the proposed names for appointment for assistant deputy chairs for each of these areas of responsibilities. I will read the names for you. The Deputy Chair for Finance, Diane Michaels. Deputy Chair of Policy, John Schroeder. Deputy Chair of Justice, Jim McGuire. Deputy Chair of Facilities, Geraldo Rosales. For ELUC, Pius Weibel. And for Highway, Lloyd Carter. Would somebody make a motion to put? All right. Is there any discussion on these names being put forward?
I'll second the motion.
That's all right. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion on these names being put forward? All those in favor of the 6 names that I have read for the deputy chairs for the 6 main committees of the county board, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. Thank you very much. Next are the names being put forward for the chairs of the standing committees of the county board for the next 2 years. And
Actually, you've already done it. You're down to members of standing committees.
oh, I'm down. I'm sorry, I skipped. Sorry.
To number 10.
All right. All right, the members of the standing committee, sorry about that. The names that I'm putting forward for the 3 standing committees, members for ELUC, we've named the chair and vice chair, so these are just the members of the committee, and that is Stan Harper, John Schroeder, Astrid Bergson, and myself, Patsy Petrie. For Highway is Jim McGuire, Diane Michaels, Max Mitchell, Shana Harrison, Chris Alex, and John Jay. And for Facilities, it is Jeff Kibler, Jack Anderson, Josh Harkey, Rachel Schwartz, James Quisenberry. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on those names for the 3 standing committees? All those in favor of the names that I've read out for those committees, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. All right, thank you. All right, now we're at Special County Board Committee and Liaison Appointments. There is a slight correction that has been brought to my attention in relationship to the Litigation Committee. And the purpose of the Litigation Committee, as it was put together a year ago, was to span a number of the different committees at the county board. And I believe it's Finance, Policy. I'm going to need a little coaching here on this. Chair of the caucus in, Ms. Busey, would you help us with this, since I was just told about this?
It's the county board chair, the finance chair, the policy chair, the caucus chair of the minority party, and one other minority party representative.
point of order. This is a special committee. All special committees are dissolved at the end of the session, so currently it does not exist. Be more appropriate if the chair would create the committee and assign members to it at this time, or later if she wants to. But you cannot appoint members to it because it doesn't exist right now. You have to create it.
All I was explaining is that the previous membership of the committee was based on those positions.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Deb. I mean, I'm just saying that we can't just appoint members. We have to actually recreate the meeting. We can do that tonight.
Okay, let's take these one at a time then, and there is, first, let me read the names for the Labor Committee, which is Chair Josh Harkey, Vice Chair Jim McGuire, and committee members Shana Harrison, Chris Alex, and Stan Harper. It has been pointed out to me that there may be a conflict of interest in relationship to Jim McGuire being on the Labor Committee, and so it is probably best that that name be pulled from that committee, and other suggestions to take Jim's place. So I would like to place those on the floor as a motion, and I need a second so we can have a discussion about this. All right, thank you. Mr. McGuire, you had your hand up.
I'd like to speak to that. I don't know what the conflict would be. Obviously, there's a lot of different types of jobs in this room, including farmers who are serving on the ELEC committee. It'd be difficult to find other non-union people or people that are involved in unions that wouldn't be here in the room, that would be serving on different committees, to pick out one type of job or one type of person and not allow them and say that they're, you know, they have a conflict just because of where they work or who they are. Not pointing out something that would actually be the conflict, just to say they can't serve. Obviously, with years of being involved in union work or in a union place, I understand both sides, both from management's position and labor's position, in protecting the employees of the county or management's position. So I think it would bring some probably needed experience to this committee. So I'd hope you would allow me to serve as the vice chairman.
Mr. Alex.
I would think that we need to get an opinion from the state's attorney on that. My concern is that the Labor Committee essentially operates as an advisory board to the professional labor negotiators, and as such, the Labor Committee is entirely in what would be seen legally as a management role rather than a labor role. And my understanding is that you are a member of one of the unions with which the county board would be negotiating. So I think, although I'm not suggesting that you would not be able to be impartial, I think that there may be a legal issue there in terms of labor law as far as who's management and who's labor, and I don't think we may want to get into that. So I would say that it's probably a technical question of law for the state's attorney to resolve whether or not it's appropriate to have someone who's a member of a union with whom the county board, with whom the labor committee would be advising our negotiators to negotiate, to be acting in that management role.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Is there activity that the Labor Committee needs to conduct prior to our policy cow in January?
No.
So we could get that kind of feedback from the state's attorney prior to that time and enact this committee at that time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would it be appropriate to defer this to the policy cow in January?
I would accept that as a
I
motion.
will, if so, I will make that motion to defer this
Second.
appointment of the Labor Committee to the January policy cow.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Yeah. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor of postponing this to the January policy cow, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. All right, thank you very much. I would also entertain a similar motion in relationship to the litigation committee, so we could reflect back on the purpose of that and the appropriate appointment of county board members. Would somebody make
So
that?
moved.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this motion to place this on the policy agenda at the cow? Yes,
Sorry, I didn't understand the motion. The motion is to defer the,
yes,
yes,
yes, parallel to what happened previously.
understand.
Is there any other further discussion on this? Yes, Mr. Quisenberry.
Is there action that the litigation committee needs to take prior to the cow? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of placing the litigation committee on the policy cow in January, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to this action, please say aye. All right, thank you very much. All right, the last item is what we have referred to as liaison appointments. As I have reviewed these, they're more than just liaisons. Most of these people have actual votes on these various boards. Over time, we might think of a different descriptor of these assignments. Many of them are extremely important because they do have voting rights. And I have given you a list of the suggested appointments to fill these various roles. They're quite numerous. I would appreciate somebody making, an omnibus motion that we accept all of these appointments this evening. Anybody make the motion? All right, second. Thank you very much. It's open for discussion on these various appointments. Mr. Quisenberry.
Okay, I have a couple of points. The first thing I would note that Economic Development Corporation, we have appointed dual liaisons to it historically, and they have their own schedule of voting members in for terms. I'm currently a liaison and a member through June of 2016. And Mr. Schrader is currently a board member who has a term ending of June 2015, I believe. And I would suggest, while I would be glad to see Mr. Mitchell a second time a month, or fourth time a month, as the case may be, we might want to consider respecting the terms of that body and doing appointments when those terms come up, rather than with our voting.
I appreciate that additional information. I was not aware of that. So, Mr. Schroeder, I was not trying to short shrift you here at all. So my deepest apologies for that. Yes.
Thank you. If I may, I appreciate Mr. Quisenberry's catch on that. I'd forgotten that we were termed over there, so I would be happy to serve out my term if that's fine. You don't have to apologize. It was placed in front of you, and so
I didn't
there
know.
it is. You
Thank
didn't
you
know.
very much for that. And Mr. Mitchell, are you all right with that new information? All right. Thank you very much. All right.
And so my second question is with regard to the nursing home board of directors, and this question mostly is to Jeff. I have noted on a couple of conversations and maybe at least one vote where you have expressed concern about being more deeply involved with the nursing home because of an appearance of a conflict of interest. I'd like to hear if you're willing to express, why you feel comfortable doing this now in the light of that past history.
Sure, so, mind if I speak?
Well, fortunately, the rules have been suspended, so absolutely, please answer it.
Technically, the rules were only suspended for,
Oh,
Right, right.
Yes, please.
So it's a great question, and I'm going to really try not to spend 30 minutes answering it. So I appreciate that. Ultimately, from a legal perspective, an opinion, or not an official opinion, but we asked the state's attorney in 2012, when we were considering the idea of me trying to get on the nursing home board, if there was any conflict, and there was not. Because I have no financial gain whatsoever based upon my mother's entity. So when this early part of this year came about, she started expanding out her operations, and that's the point in time in which I started saying, I don't want anybody to ever think that I have a conflict with the two operations, so I'm just going to abstain from voting. Frankly, they are completely different entities. The abstention was completely done for making sure that there was no perceived conflict, but there is no legal conflict. If you'd like, we can get another legal opinion to make sure that that's still the case, but ultimately, what has changed my mind now is the sense that each caucus has a side that needs to appoint somebody, and frankly, I'm extremely passionate about the quality of care of the nursing home. And perceptions can be one thing, but trying to make it a better place is a totally different question. And so you're spot on in asking the question of me, because I have said that in the past, and I've said it because I didn't want anybody to think I was trying to do anything improper. But at this point, I think we're all in the same boat, that we need to do something about the nursing home with respect to quality of care and making sure that our residents have the best care that we can provide. So with that in mind, I did throw my hat in the ring, saying that there is no conflict from a legal sense. It was more of a perception issue that I didn't want anybody to think anything was improper. So therefore, I would be glad to throw my name in the ring for this appointment. So if there's any other questions I can answer that, I'd be glad to.
Are there any other questions, Mr. Keebler? Yes, Mr. Alex.
Question that came up during our caucus along similar lines was that, and for the reasons that you just stated, you recused yourself from voting on the renewal of the MPA contract the last time around. Is it your position at this point that you would be able to vote on such issues going forward? Because I think it's a reasonable point that if there are issues of import to the nursing home from which you would have to recuse yourselves on votes, I think it would be problematic to have you on the nursing home board. So I assume your comment applies to those situations as well.
It does. So you make a very good point as well. It is, in the past, it was all about making sure that I didn't want anybody to think that I had any sort of conflict, and so I recused myself from those votes. But going forward, I do not plan on doing that. I don't plan on recusing myself for those votes because just of the fact that one is they're completely different entities from an operation standpoint. One's a nursing home, the other one is a assisted living facility, so they are completely different from terms of how they're overall overseen by the state. There are a lot of similarities, but overall they are different, and they have different clientele, they have different objectives. So I do plan on, to answer your question succinctly, I do plan on voting in those cases.
Yes,
And if I
please continue.
If I could follow up, just to clarify, the assisted living facilities that you're talking about are facilities that are operated by members of your family, but you are not personally involved in the day-to-day operation of those facilities, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and this has gone to the state's attorney at some point, did I hear? Who has determined that there's not a functional conflict here?
In 2012 it was, but
Okay.
it's been 2 years, so if we want another one, I'd be glad to
I
ask
mean,
again.
if there's been no material change in your participation in this business in 2 years, I don't see why it would have changed. But, okay, I think maybe one of those things to put on the rainy day list for the state's attorney, just to confirm that, but it seems reasonable to me.
So a question of clarification to Mr. Alex. Would you like that particular appointment pulled so that we can check with the state's attorney, or is your comfort level sufficient with his answers to continue?
I'm fine. I mean, if we have an opinion from 2012, that seems fine to me.
All
I mean,
right.
if the state's attorney wants to step up and challenge it, we can reconsider, but Otherwise, I think we're fine.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Just, I'm looking at the list, and there's a nursing home board of directors, and then down below is nursing home
Yes.
BOD,
You're-
mental health board.
You're correct. I was working from 3 different lists, and it was caught by Mr. Harkey during our caucus that I had done this twice on the list. So, yeah, please ignore that. Thank you. Are there any other issues and questions? Yes, Mr. Schroeder.
Looking through the list that was on our desk this evening for appointments, I don't see anything in there for Regional Plan Commission, except for the Service Block Loan Guarantee Committee.
So I missed another one, right? Well, I have for the RPC that there are 3 individuals. One has to be the chair, which is myself, Mr. Schroeder, who has served previously, and I have not had a chance to, there should be a Democrat, and I have not had a chance to check and confirm that with the person I have in mind.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we've not formally changed a couple of things, so formally make a motion that we adjust the Economic Development Corporation back to Mr. Schrader, and then also add the Regional Planning Commission with the 2 members you just indicated. That way it's complete on the record. So
Thank
that's my
you.
motion.
Point of order, that should be an amendment.
I would like an amendment, please, to the same notes.
Is there a second to the amendment? Yes, Ms. Michaels, or you have a question? All right, please. Thank you, Mr. Alex. Ms. Michaels?
I just want to make sure you got my memo on Head Start.
I did.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Are there any other, oh, yes, Mr. Alex.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify, who was the other member on RPC?
It would be myself and Mr. Schroeder, who was on last year. I
Okay.
have,
And-
and we
and
need a
one, two,
Democrat,
okay,
and
two
I
positions,
have
okay.
not
And,
gotten that yet.
and I have another one for the list, which is the Labor Management Health Insurance Committee.
Yes, that,
Also, I assume Mr. Weibel's comments about that being I don't know if that is a special committee or a standing committee that may or may not need to be reconstituted.
well, it's my understanding now that I've read it in the agreement, it seems to be a regular committee, but I will ask Ms. Busey to make a comment on that. I just read that this afternoon, so please, Ms. Busey.
Well, I think our belief is the county board has to appoint those county board members, so it seemed like it would be done at the organizational meeting every 2 years to affirm or reassign who the members of the Labor Management Health Insurance Committee are.
All right, and I did, after the communication with Ms. Busey this afternoon, I followed her recommendation of the 3 people that she would like to see continue on that Health Insurance Committee, which is Mr. Alex, Ms. Bergstrom as alternate, and Mr. Harper, yes. And that's at her suggestion.
Point of order, so is that also an amendment?
Yes.
Did we vote on the previous amendment already?
No,
No,
we have
we've
not.
Can we finish that before we do
No,
another amendment?
we have to do that.
Yeah.
All right, is there any further discussion on Mr. Kibler's amendment? Yes,
I was hoping we could roll that into the original amendment, since these are basically all the changes that are different from what was handed out.
all right, would you accept that as a friendly change? All right, thank you very much. All right, any further discussion on the rolled-in friendly amendment? All right, all those in favor of the changes to? Right, to which the amendment, which is adjustment to the listing on the Economic Development Corporation because of those assigned times per that group's bylaws, to the RPC, and to the County Health Insurance Committee. All those in favor of the changes, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. All right, thank you very much. Now we're back to the main motion of acceptance of the amended list of liaisons that have been presented to you this evening. Is there any further comments and discussion on those? And I appreciate very much what has been pointed out and checking on conflicts of interest and other questions that have been brought up. All right, everybody, all those in favor of the amended list of appointments as board members and liaisons, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. Mr. Carter voted no in case that, to make sure that gets recorded. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Just for the public record, let me read our upcoming meetings and times. You have them in front of you, but just for the public so they will know. The first meeting in January will be the 6th of January, and that will be the Facilities Committee. Followed on the 8th of January with the Environment and Land Use Committee. And then the next day, on the 9th of January, will be the Highway Committee. The Committee of the Whole will be meeting on Tuesday, the 13th of January, and the full county board meeting will occur on Thursday, the 22nd of January. And then on the 27th of January, we will be having a special study session. And I do note that on the 22nd of January, you're asked to arrive a bit early because there will be the, what? No?
We will probably actually change that photo again because at the time
Okay.
we did this agenda, we thought the vacant position would be filled tonight.
I understand.
And we want to wait till you have a full board.
All right, thank you for that clarification. All right. We are now to public participation, and I seem to have only one slip from Mr. Northrup. Would you please come up? Nice to see you this evening. Good evening. Please do. That's all?
Can't hear me? Thanks for having me this evening, and for those new board members who may not know who I am, I'm Dwayne Northrup, the Champaign County Coroner. I wanted to come tonight with the new board here just to express some information and some things that are going on in my office regarding my employee situation, just to bring something to your attention or to bring it up again. Through the budget process this year, I requested an additional full-time staff for my office. Unfortunately, it was not approved. There really wasn't much discussion about it that I'm aware of, and it was kind of let go as far as it obviously wasn't approved but wasn't brought up. Unfortunately, we're at a point in my office where I feel it's imperative that I come in and express to you what's going on because, you know, frankly, we physically can't go on the way we are with the number of staff we have. So I put together the form that I passed out to you was a sheet and a half of bullet points that I wanted to bring to your attention because as I went and looked at my employee situation and status compared to other departments, it just doesn't seem like it all calculates out right to me. So, you know, as the coroner, I'm responsible for my office for covering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the county. Unfortunately, I've run the numbers for several years now, and we're doing just as much work after hours when the office is closed as we are during the day when the office is open. I still have my administrative duties as well as handling death calls myself. I have 3 full-time staff that handle death calls out of my office. And when I say death calls, that's responding to death scenes, to the hospital, taking phone calls for death calls, whatever it may be. We work 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, when I calculate out those hours, there's absolutely no way we can cover all those hours, and we haven't been able to. In the past, I've covered a lot of those additional hours myself, and frankly, I just can't do it. I can't. There's too many hours, too much work, and what's happened is the people who die, when they die, their family members need a death certificate. Unfortunately, while we're doing a death investigation, we issue what's called a temporary death certificate. Our goal is to get the permanent death certificate finalized as quickly as possible so that family members can collect insurance and so forth, can finalize their loved one's estate. Unfortunately, it's taking us months to get those done because the same people I have who respond in the middle of the night have to come in the next day and follow up with those cases. And when we sit down at our desk and try and do the paperwork, the phone rings, we have to leave and go to another death. We literally have minimal to no time to finish those investigations and file those death certificates. So I'm receiving call after call after call from upset family members that they can't get their final death certificate. And so when I penciled out the hours for you, in a 7-day work week, there's 168 total hours that we're responsible to cover. I have 3 full-time employees that are a 40-hour-a-week schedule, which adds up to 120 hours. That leaves me 48 other hours in every week that we have to cover one way or another. And we've tried everything from adjusting the schedule, doing different things. Unfortunately, we just can't cover those hours without either going into overtime, which we've done our best not to go into overtime in the past, but it's becoming inevitable. I mean, we just can't do it. I understand through talking to Deb, and I don't know where this came from, Deb might be able to enlighten me, but there's something out there that says to run a 24-hour operation, it requires a minimum 5.1 employees. Now, I have a total of 5 full-time employees if you include my secretary, but my secretary doesn't respond to deaths after hours, she's not an investigator, so that leaves me down to 4 when you count me, and that's if I do nothing else but respond to deaths. So as a comparison, I just compared because I'm familiar with the Sheriff's Department. CCSO would be the Sheriff's Department, of course, on your sheet. They were in November, the end of November, beginning of December, they were about at 3,600 calls a year, their file numbers or whatever they call them, when we were on a call and when I talked to them. I called the sheriff and said, how is your staffing in any 24-hour period? And Sheriff Walsh informed me that from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., his minimum staffing is 4 full-time employees on duty covering that. I never have more than 1 full-time employee covering a 24-hour period, every day of the week, 7 days a week. So, you know, that's a comparison for you there. And when it's not 2 to 6 a.m., the sheriff has upwards of 8 or more full-time employees that are on the road or doing those duties, where I still have 1. So, and then right below that, the CCCO, that's Champaign County Coroner's Office, we're up to, as of the end of November, we're at approximately 1,800 calls ourselves. So that gives you, we're doing about half the number of calls with a fraction of the total number of full-time employees. So when I penciled that out, the other thing I thought was interesting when I got thinking about it, the Sheriff's Department covers the rural areas of the county and some of the smaller towns. As a coroner's office, when a death occurs in Champaign, Urbana, Rantoul, Mahomet, Tolono, any of those towns that have an actual police department themselves, but the Sheriff's Department doesn't cover that town, we still cover that town for death investigations. The Sheriff's Department doesn't cover that town for police calls and so forth. So again, the Sheriff's Department doesn't cover the city of Champaign, the city of Urbana, things like that, but we do, again, with a fraction of the number of employees. So then I looked at other staffing levels in the county. And what I did is I looked at other departments in the county who had similar number of employees. And that gave me the treasurer's office, which, and I apologize, these numbers I believe are close, but I just kind of pulled them off from what I understood. The treasurer's office has 5 full-time employees if you count the treasurer. Their office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. The auditor's office has 5.5, I believe, full-time employees for 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. The recorder's office has 5 or 6 full-time employees, 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And so it basically, I believe Supervisor of Assessment has, I think, 6 employees for the same time period. Again, I have 4 employees if you count me. Yes?
Your 5 minutes?
Did we suspend the rules?
No.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I
you're
didn't
so
count. Okay.
clever. If I, yeah, you're right. Yes, Mr. Alex?
Madam Chair, I move to suspend the rules to allow the coroner to continue his presentation.
Second? Lorraine, thank you. All those in favor of suspending the rules so he may finish? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Yes, please
Thank you.
continue.
I'll wrap it up quickly, though. And I apologize, at the bottom there, The last 2 points on the front page, I just stated, I went back and pulled all the calls we receive after hours total, and it actually averaged out to be 7 calls a night that come in between 4:30, 8 a.m. That's the minimum or the average. I had down there court ruling. I apologize. When I went back and looked at it, it's not a court ruling in Will County, but actually last November 2013, the State of Illinois Board of Labor Relations received a request from the Will County because there was a notice from AFSCME in Will County that they had an intent to strike. And I have a copy of it I can leave for anybody that wants it. Basically what happened, the county requested that certain positions in the county not be allowed to strike during the strike because they were essential functions in the county. And with that, the coroner's office, it was determined that they were allowed to keep, and were told that they had to keep a minimum 1 deputy coroner on duty every 24 hours during the strike. That didn't include the coroner and the chief deputy. That was just a minimum deputy coroner who was in their AFSCME union, which my deputies are in the AFSCME union here. So the Labor Relations Board determined that was the minimum staffing they needed during the strike. So I just wanted to put that out there because I was made aware of that by the Will County. So on the back of the page that I gave you, I put down basically what the minimum starting salary is for a full-time deputy coroner in the coroner's office. And then I put down the overtime expenses. If I was to pay those people, the minimum salary at overtime would be a total of $63,000 if they were to cover the whole 48 hours every week as overtime versus having a full-time person that's at 35 hours. So that's why I threw that out there. That makes a difference. At the end there, you can see it would cost us an extra $28,000 minimally because my deputies actually, there's a minimum salary and then there's one that's been there a while, so they actually have a higher salary. The minimum overtime costs in a year for us to cover that would be $28,000. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention with hopes that there's some way I can work with the board or the personnel committee and finance to try and figure out a way that we can somehow at least get another full-time position in the coroner's office, not only to help our office handle all the calls, but to assist these families in getting their death certificates. I mean, we try right now, and I can tell you, we try to finish any trauma case that's an autopsy within 60 days. We're going 4 months on some of these cases, and we just don't have the time to finish the paperwork. So that's all I have. I appreciate the chance to speak to you tonight, and look forward to hopefully working with you soon.
Thank you very much. I would like a follow-up with the Chair of Finance and the Vice Chair of Finance to set up a meeting with you and with Ms. Busey, and I would like to attend to have further conversation on this and see what can be resolved one way or the other.
I would greatly appreciate that.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other individuals who would like to speak this evening? All right, I close public participation. Communications. Mr. Harkey.
Yeah, I have a letter that was sent to me a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to read a very short passage from it. It's addressed to Karen Nofke, the administrator of the nursing home. On behalf of my family, I want to thank the entire staff of Champaign County Nursing Home for the loving care that my mother, Martha, received while living there during the last 5.5 months of her life. They have my family's heartfelt and undying gratitude. If I were to summarize our experience with the CCNH staff, I would have to say we have been the beneficiaries of the nursing home dream team. Our experience has been nothing short of fantastic. It goes on like that for 2 pages, but I do want to read the final paragraph. In conclusion, please share with your staff my deepest gratitude for the loving and compassionate care and uncompromising dignity they reliably gave my mother during her residence at CCNH. Being able to consistently depend on them to look after my mother allowed me to focus all of my energy on spending loving, quality time with her almost every day during her last days on earth. I am eternally indebted to them for that incalculable gift of the peace of mind that it has left me with. I mostly wanted to read that because we hear a lot of bad stories about the nursing home. In fact, that's really most of what we hear. We miss the vast majority of stories that are from people who have fantastic experiences at our nursing home, who are just like George and have family members that they're able to spend quality time in their last days with without worry, because our nursing home does have high quality of care. So I hope that the new members of the nursing home board will take that to heart and remember that there are far more good stories that come out of that nursing home than bad.
Mr. Harkey, thank you very much. Appreciate your reading that into the record. Yes, Ms. Bergson.
It's a verbal communication, but a former member of the county board for many years. Her husband was in the county nursing home for 6 weeks. She said it was much improved. He said the food was much improved. They even have a soup of the day now, and he found it a very positive experience.
Thank you. That's excellent. Two good positive reports about our nursing home. I just have two pieces of communication. One is a reminder that anything we do on our phones or our computer during a county board meeting is open to being FOIA'd, so you might want to keep that in mind. And second, the clipboard is going around for those who might volunteer to sign up to do the monthly reading or whatever you choose to do. All right. I would like to now ask the chair, well, vice chair of facilities, Mr. Roselle. No? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still on the wrong page. Thank you for keeping me in. I would accept an omnibus motion for the approval of the minutes of October 23rd, November 20th, and the 1st of December, which was the organizational meeting. Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Keebler. I'm going to get this right before the evening's over. Any discussion on the omnibus motion to accept the 3 sets of minutes? It's been moved and seconded. All right, I'm asking for discussion. Any corrections? All right. All those in favor of acceptance of these 3 sets of minutes, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. All right. The next on our agenda is the quarterly nursing home report, and Mr. Gima is here. Good evening, Mr. Gima. It's nice to see you.
Good evening, everyone. For the new board members, my name is Scott Gima with Management Performance Associates. And this is the quarterly update for fourth quarter of 2014. One item or bullet that I failed to add below food service, I have a couple slides on the CMS, or the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services 5-star quality ratings that I'll go over. Census. Through October, our census, or for the month of October, our census was 204. This year, our census has been the strongest on a year-to-date basis that we've seen since roughly 2012. Our census in the month of November is just under 200, and what we're seeing is that the number of inquiries from the hospitals, where we get the majority of our admissions, or a high percentage of admissions, remains high. We're averaging about 40 inquiries a month, and that has been steady for about the last 6 to 8 months. But I would characterize it as over the last 2 months and into December so far, is the quality of our inquiries has decreased, meaning that we are getting a lot of inquiries or potential discharges from the hospitals that are not appropriate for the nursing home. There'd be a younger population, and also seeing individuals who are having drug issues that we just cannot accept. And so the number of admissions that we have been seeing, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead here. Let me back up. So this shows our average daily census on an annual basis from 2008 to 2014. And again, through October, our average is 203. So again, showing that we actually have enjoyed a very strong census year this year, and it's also showing up on our financials. Our Medicare, despite the overall census being higher, Medicare has been roughly averaging about 14 year to date. And our current Medicare census is at as of today, 10, and that includes 5 traditional Part A plus 5 Medicare Advantage. And one of the changes that we're seeing over the last couple of years is we're seeing a higher percentage of Medicare managed care, and that is going to probably increase exponentially, as I've been discussing with the implementation of the dual eligible managed care program. And the auto enrollment or the passive enrollment process has increased significantly over the last 2 months. But the positive note on that is, while in the past our Medicare Advantage reimbursement rates were significantly less than what we get with traditional Part A, we were successfully able to renegotiate those rates, so we are paid now the same rates under Part A as we get under Medicare Advantage. So we do not lose a single penny with the conversion from Part A to Medicare Managed Care or to the dual eligible program. Our VA census has kind of slacked off over the last couple of months, but so far this year, we have seen the highest number of VA residents that we've ever seen in the building. And again, we also renegotiated that contract earlier this year and have increased our reimbursement rates for that payer mix. Again, as I was previously talking about our admissions, so because of the quality of the admissions or the quality of the inquiries that we receive have decreased over the last few months, the number of admissions have decreased. So in the month of October, we had 15 admissions. I believe the admission total for November will be roughly about the same. And then when you take a look at what is leaving the building, this year we're actually seeing an average reduction per month in the number of discharges and deaths at the facility. And so that has helped us to maintain the census that we're seeing. Our payer mix, 56% Medicaid, 36.2% private pay, and 7.7% Medicare. And again, embedded in that private pay is the VA. Now, I will also put an asterisk on the current year-to-date payer mix because of the high number of Medicaid applications that we have incurred this year. Those applications are not shown under Medicaid, but are characterized under private pay until those applications are approved. So, as of November 1st, we had 59 Medicaid applications out of roughly 105 to 110 Medicaid residents. The financial position. Our net income on a year-to-date basis through October is a positive $691,000. If we add back the depreciation, the cash flow that we should anticipate from operations, and I apologize for the extra comma, is just under $1.4 million. And I say should be, and I'll explain that in a couple of slides. This slide again shows our monthly expenses for contract nursing, and you can see again this year we have seen a higher trend in our usage of agency nursing. And in this case, the issue has been consistently, we have had vacancies with the CNA category. Now, we have identified that it is not an issue with the supply of CNAs. We actually are getting an average of about 20 to 25 CNA applications a month, and that has been consistent for the entire year. But we have not been processing our applications in a timely fashion. So we basically have not been able to keep up with the number of separations with the number of hires. Now, ironically, this year we are seeing the lowest level of separations of CNAs this year. But starting in November, when we identified the issue, we were averaging prior to that about 3 or 4 new hires of CNAs a month. In the month of November, we hired 6. In early December, we had hired another 6. And right now, tentatively through the first week in January, we will have 3 additional CNAs on board. So if we keep up with that rate at the current separation rate, we have roughly about 25 FTEs that we need to fill. And if we were able to do that, we will be able to get our agency costs down going into next year. And again, at the current rate of hiring, which hopefully we'll be able to maintain. Hopefully within the next 3 or 4 months, all things being equal, we'll be able to get those positions filled.
Scott, can we interrupt you for a moment? Mr. McGuire has a question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it says October or December through October, but it only says September on the bottom.
I would have needed to, if I had made the font smaller, October would have popped up at that last
So what
hash
is,
mark.
what is the actual figure? Is it, and then November? I mean, we're passing through November. How high is the figure now at the
I
end of
believe the
year?
November number will be slightly higher than the October figure, and I don't have the actual expenses, but
I think
it's,
that's an important figure for us to be able to have, and I don't understand why you keep coming without those figures so we can understand the
Well, if you take-
the financial position of the county board, or the county nursing home. I mean, this has been an issue every time you come to this board, that you don't have complete information. Could you please
Well-
start doing that? I mean, I'm getting tired of asking.
well, the information, what I'm showing you here is the trends. And I've identified what is the cause of the trend, and that we've identified a solution to that. So over the next few months, and going into 2015, I anticipate that we will see a decrease in our monthly contract nursing expenses and getting it back to where we were in 2013, where we roughly had a little over 300,000 or 350,000 in annual expenses, which is a significant improvement over where we were early on in 2009 or 10, where we were incurring expenses of about $1.2 million a year. So yes, we are seeing an uptick this year, but we have identified the issue, which is we have enough CNA applicants. We are very picky on all of our applicants, but there is no reason why we can't hire more CNAs at a higher rate than we have been over the last few months. So it is a solvable problem. And again, our goal is to try to reduce agency as much as possible. I think I've said this before, we may never be able to eliminate it, but we will significantly improve our quality of care by having our own staff versus agency staff.
So would it be possible to provide Mr. McGuire with that additional information so he has the whole picture? You could send that to him? On your chart here, just get.
I can give you the actual numbers. Obviously, I don't have the actual dollar amounts on the chart because it would be too cumbersome,
Okay.
but I can provide that information.
But if
My
you could
suggestion would be-
communicate with him, that would be very helpful.
It's not
And-
important to go back to 2009, maybe to provide the last year, and then you would have more space on your chart. I mean, and this is an issue that's continually going up.
Well,
I
and
mean,
it's also,
your position, your financial position is deteriorating greatly, and could eventually start impacting the county board's budget because of these CNA issues. And the idea that you're getting applications for CNAs and telling us eventually you're going to hire more people, which would impact the agency nursing. I mean, I don't understand why you can't provide the information and you can't hire the people to fix that problem, and why you're just bringing that to us as a report.
All right, I saw Mr. Alex and then Mr. Quisenberry, yes.
Scott, I think what Mr. McGuire is saying, if I may put words in his mouth, is we understand that these monthly reports always lag, or these quarterly reports always lag by a few months because it takes significant time to put them together. But for these key indicators, it would be useful to know, in addition to, here's the data from the monthly report, for these half dozen, whatever key indicators that you're putting up there, it would be nice to have a most recent monthly value so we can identify whether the trend that's held over that quarter is something that's continued to date. Because,
Okay,
I mean,
understood.
there are always a couple of months of lag between the quarterly reports and the current reports. I know you provide that information as part of the monthly finance report. It doesn't seem like it'd be too much work to just include that as a addition here. It doesn't even have to go on the graph, but just to say, okay, here's the graph, and by the way, in the most recent month, the number was X. That being said, I'd like to get to this CNA issue a little bit. Do we only seek to hire when there is a vacancy?
We always have vacancies with the CNAs.
Okay.
So
Okay,
it's a constant
That's what I thought, because it seems
process.
to me if we're in a position where we're having to go out to the agency because somebody leaves and the turnaround time to bring a new person on is high, is non-zero, including training and so forth, that would seem to be an argument for overstaffing on the CNA side, depending on what the relative cost of an agency CNA versus a salaried CNA is. And what, I don't mean, can you just ballpark what that number is? I mean, does an agency CNA cost twice as much as a
It's more than
as a
twice
paid
as
CNA?
much.
Okay, so I mean, it would seem like we could say, we'd probably save money. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but it seems like that's a classic scenario. We could save money by always trying to stay one or two positions overstaffed. Now, if we're doing that and people are leaving so quickly that we can't do that, that's one thing, but it seems like we may want to take a closer look there and see if we are, introducing lag in this process of bringing people on board more so than we need to be. Also, to go to Mr. McGuire's point, I don't think we need to look back 6 years on this stuff anymore. I mean, the economic position of the nursing home has improved substantially in 6 years. The the regulatory environment, the reimbursement environment, the relationships with the hospitals and stuff are so different now than they were 6 years ago that I think it's, probably anything more than a couple years is redundant.
I'll make sure I make that change the next time. No,
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't
agree.
want to unilaterally call for that, but I think it's something you may want to consider, that we probably don't need to go back quite that far.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yeah, I probably asked this question in July of 2013, but it's been long enough ago that I forgot the answer. But I seem to remember asking for your ballpark figure of what steady state looks like for staff agency nursing. And I seem to remember that when we were below 20,000, we were doing better than what steady state would be like. Is that still true? Is 20 the goal, all things being equal?
I'd say all things being equal. Well, my goal is to try to get it down to pennies a month. I know I'm exaggerating, but yeah, I think that was
That was the best time of our life right there.
correct.
When we had that period, okay. So, and what I also thought I heard you say is, so we got up above 60,000 in October, and you think that's gonna be closer to 70,000 in November, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay, but you feel like the strides you've made in addressing the CNA departure problem, that'll level out or at least start to decline in our next quarterly report?
Yes.
Also remind me, I think I recall hearing that in this industry, the CNA is the highest turnover position across the board, no matter who we're talking about. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the slide or anything that Mr. Gima has talked about up to this point?
Do you have any idea of how fast our CNAs turnover? I thought you pointed at me.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay,
McGuire.
I'm sorry. I thought you pointed at me.
Yeah, I gave you a false cue. Go ahead. I'll get Jeff next. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you have any idea how fast the CNAs turnover at our nursing home compared to the industry?
Our CNA turnover rates, our overall turnover rate is right now 52.5%. So the industry average for overall turnover rate is 45%, and that's according to the American Healthcare Association. So the actual breakdown in terms of the CNAs is embedded in that number. CNAs and food service workers are probably the two main components that drive the turnover rate. The other figure that we are looking at also is the retention rate, and that's defined as the number of employees that have been working at the home for at least a year, divided by the number of current employees. And that figure is close to 68 or 69% overall, and the industry average, according to the American Healthcare Association, is 70%. So when we look at the retention rate, we're not that far off. But what it means and what we've seen is that the highest turnover that we have occurs between hire to 6 months. And right now, the statistics show that roughly 42% of our turnover occurs in that 6-month period. Now, that's good, and obviously that's bad. The good is the first 6 months is our probationary period. So that's basically where we get to, if you want to say, quote unquote, test out the new employees. We have the opportunity to see if they're going to be able to fit in with our culture. So the goal is to obviously reduce our turnover rate as much as possible and hopefully reduce the turnover rate within that 6 months, because if we can keep people for a year, the chances are they're going to stay at the facility for a much longer period of time. But inherently, CNAs turn over frequently across the industry, without question.
Do you still have a question?
I
Yes.
do. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Gima. I was going to wait to the end, but since everybody's jumping on, I'll jump on now. A few slides ago, you gave the payer mix. Do you mind going back to the payer mix real quick? And you made a statement at the very end that I just need some clarification on. The payer mix was showing Medicaid versus Medicare versus private pay, and you made a statement that we do have a roughly 20 to 25% of our clientele is currently Medicaid pending. When we look at the chart, does the Medicaid pending patient fit within private pay? So right now we do have, so if you're looking at this particular chart, 38.2% includes a fairly sizable population that is also going to be flipping over to Medicaid. So would it be possible in the future, just because I'm concerned about the state with respect to paying and on Medicaid and whatnot, would it be possible to break out Medicaid pending, at least as a bullet? I know that changes all the time within this particular chart, but on the last particular quarter, say what Medicaid pending looks like. That way we have an understanding of what percentage of this, or actually what amount we may potentially lose because of Medicaid pending state changes from private pay.
I'll talk with my business office about being able to do that. We do keep track of it. We're starting to keep track of it monthly based on dollar amount on our receivables.
So what, on that note, that's actually parlays right into my next question. The next slide indicated, or 2 slides later, indicated amount of projection, cash from operations, if you go back one. What is the impact of cash position at the end of this year, assuming that all our Medicaids flipped? I assume we'd see some significant drop in cash from operations, but what is that number?
Can I hold my answer until we get to the cash discussion? Then I think.
Oh, sure, that sounds good, that's fine, yeah. I'll wait for that answer later.
Mr. Alex?
And Scott, you may give me the same answer you just gave Jeff, but what's the current timing of getting Medicaid pending approvals?
I can't give you an average, but I can tell you that we have 2 applications that go back to August and October of 2012. I
mean, not attempting to come up with an average, but can you come up with a typical example? I mean, is it 6 months? Is it a year? I mean, are most of them getting approved in a week, and then there's a couple that take a year? Are most of them getting approved with, like, let me ask you this. What would be the time frame within which you believe 75% of them get filled?
Right now, I'd say it's, at the minimum, it's a year.
Okay, so a typical application takes a year. The state recently said that they were implementing this electronic system because we know computers will solve all the world's problems, right? And that was going to speed this up. What's the status of that?
So the new system is called ABE, A-B-E. I forget what it stands for, but it basically is an electronic Medicaid application process. So prior to this, it was a manual process where we gave the information to the families, and it was up to them to submit the application and plus all the accompanying financial documentation to the state. And the new system, they fill out the application online, and we are encouraging, we've actually probably done maybe 1 application so far. but they can come into the business office, we can scan the financial documents and import them directly into the ABE system. So the positive benefit to that is we know if the application has been completed in its entirety. The system also allows us to check on the status of the application, but it does nothing with the current applications that are currently in process. So theoretically, it should help the processing of applications moving forward. I have absolutely no history yet of whether it's going to do that. We still have all these backlogged applications that we need to get processed.
But we are submitting applications using the new system now.
It is now mandatory to use the new system.
But we are using, it is now
Yes.
mandatory, okay. And for the benefit of new board members who haven't had the pleasure of hearing me rant about this before, can you tell me if I have the situation correct? Someone is in the nursing home as a private pay patient. They spend down their assets, they have no more money. At that point, they should be eligible for Medicaid. We apply to the state to get them certified for Medicaid. In the meantime, we continue to provide them service without receiving payment in the hopes that at some point the state will decide that they were Medicaid eligible and pay us retroactively.
Correct.
Okay. If the state decides ultimately that they are not Medicaid eligible, we're out all the cost of care that we provided, right?
Correct.
And determining that someone who is 90 years old, has no job, and is confined to a nursing home, and has no assets, is eligible for Medicare, takes the state a year.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, or can Scott continue his presentation? Scott, please continue, and thank you for the time you spent answering all the questions.
All right, I'm going to skip to this chart. So this is going to get to answer Jeff's question, and also I think provide additional information to what Chris was talking about. So the red line is our accounts receivable. So that includes all our payers, including Medicaid pending. As of October, we are up to $5.1 million in receivables. Our cash, which is unfortunately the bottom line, through October, at the end of October, was $317,000. I can tell you that the November ending cash balance was below $200,000, but I will tell you that right now we are watching our cash on a daily basis. And the business office manager is updating a cash balance plus a forecast of what our cash balance over the next few months is on a daily basis. So we're keeping a close eye on this and also keeping in contact with the county auditor and county treasurer. So just bear with me 1 second so I can pull up these notes that I have here. So the reason why the cash is down in October, it was a 3 payroll month, but the biggest issue continues to be the Medicaid pending. So for a frame of reference, in November of 2013, we had 35 applications open, which accounted for $725,000 in receivables, Medicaid dollars that we would anticipate receiving. As of September 2014, we were up to 47 applications, $1.5 million in Medicaid receivables. That's an increase of $815,000. So again, that's through September. I've calculated that right now we have 58 applications open. That is, we're losing or not receiving roughly $225,000 a month, or we're accumulating additional receivables of $225,000 a month. So now, the other thing that you also have to take into consideration is back in the summer, Senate Bill 471 was passed, and that Senate bill stated that the state recognized that there was a huge problem with the Medicaid pending issue, and they were going to put all resources to start reducing the backlog. Now, my characterization of that, and it's my opinion only, is it was an unfunded mandate because they did not allocate any dollars to hire any additional caseworkers, And the biggest problem, I know I've said this before, is that there are less caseworkers. There's been a consolidation of offices across the state. The ABE system was part of that bill, but in addition, they did allocate $50 million to lone nursing homes. We received a $430,000 payment in July or August. That's actually included in that $317,000. And so I would characterize that loan as saying, okay, we're going to give you some of this cash now, and we're going to fix the problem so you can pay back that money. We have to pay that money back to the state in the spring in 3 payments. So now what have I been doing to fix this problem? Because it's an untenable situation to have $1.5 million in receivables that increases by about $225,000 a month. So I've been talking with associations, Life Services Network. We also have been utilizing the services of a lobbyist, Dave Strickland, for the last couple of years. And so I've been talking with them over the last couple of months. I've also pointed out to the association that if things do not change, the state has to put a moratorium on the repayment of the loan. So they're starting to talk with the state about doing that. No action has been taken. It's going to take legislation to actually delay the repayment of the loan. But in the meantime, we need cash. So Mr. Strickland has contacts with the Department of Human Services, them in conjunction with the Division of Healthcare and Family Services. There's overlap in the processing of these Medicaid applications. So what I can tell you is that since middle to late November, and especially over the last 2 weeks, we are starting to see some positive developments in the processing of these applications. And just yesterday, our business office manager received, out of the blue, a phone call from the Champaign County office, and they had a conference call with a supervisor from the Macon County office that handles all the Medicaid applications, and they reviewed all of our pending applications. So I don't have an updated list just yet, but my business office manager approximates that there may be 30 of these applications that will be processed over the next, or that we actually may receive payment over the next month or two. And we are going to continue to push because, again, I have no frame of reference about how bad our situation is compared to the other facilities. But at this point, I'm being selfish. The cash situation that we have is, again, untenable. So, but I believe we have hit the low point and maybe we're moving forward. Because again, this is a huge policy issue. If this does not change, I would have to come to you and say that we're going to have to start limiting the number of Medicaid admissions that we have. Or what are we going to do with these spend downs? At this point, we don't do anything. If they use their assets and become Medicaid, we're going to take care of them. That has been the mission of the county nursing home. But the state is putting a huge, huge burden on us when we are losing over $200,000 a month and an accumulated $1.5 million in receivables. But all that being said, I think we're starting to see things move. But again, it's been taking an extra effort for us to get our applications processed. Now, over the long term, I'm still very pessimistic because there are not enough caseworkers at the Macon County office to handle all these applications. So we'll have to see. But in the short term, again, we have roughly about 30 of these applications that we believe are going to be processed. And I'm saying believe because we haven't seen the check yet. We haven't seen the voucher or the prepayment report that says we are going to get paid these 30 claims. And again, the dollar amounts could be over $500,000, but we'll just have to see.
Ms. Coward?
Well, I'd like to know how do you process these applications? Do you wait until the people are completely without any finance, or do you look at it and say, well, these people are not going to be able to pay after a certain amount of time? I'm going to put in an application now so that when their money's run out, the state already have the application on file beforehand?
We actually do the latter, but here's the catch. So we have roughly 20 or so of these applications that have been reviewed by the state or by the caseworkers. They've identified that they are eligible for Medicaid, but they have a spend down that they have to go through. It may be $20,000 or $30,000 more that they have to spend. We will have to, they spend the money, which basically we have to submit receipts that said that they spend down the money. We have 20 of those cases or so where they have spent down the money, we have submitted the receipts, and again, in my opinion, all it's going to take is a quick review by the caseworker and a key punch on the computer that says this application is now ready to be processed by Medicaid. But we have roughly 20 of those that have been sitting there for months that we're waiting to get processed.
Ms. Michaels? Oh, Chris has asked questions before, so if you...
I'll be quick. There's three ways that you can have a Medicaid patient, right? One is they can come in already eligible for Medicaid, presumably from another home or from a hospital maybe. They can come in as a private pay patient and go through the spend down process to the point where they're Medicaid eligible. Or they can come to the home having not yet been approved for Medicaid. Now, my understanding is the third case we don't admit, right? The only way you're going to get into the home is if you come in as a private pay patient or come in already Medicaid eligible or Medicare or VA or so forth.
Correct.
So what percentage of our Medicaid census got there through each of those routes? Any idea?
I'm not sure, but I'd say the majority of them are where they've spent down their assets and are converting to Medicaid.
Spent down their assets while they were residents of the nursing home.
Facility, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Michaels?
It didn't go. I have a question looking at the receivables here, the 5 million, and then, of course, you said that, you know, we are losing because we're not receiving income. At what point do you, for the lack of another term in my banking world, do you start charging some of that off, or how old is some of that maybe we just know that we will not recover it, and try to be a little more realistic of what we will be able to recover?
Over the last few years, we've been writing off our bad debt or receivables. So right now, I couldn't tell you what amount of bad debt is in the, but it is a lot. I can tell you it's a lot less than what has been in the receivables in prior years. Now, I just also want to point out that the other factor, significant factor in that is the IGT. So again, the Medicaid pending is a double whammy. If we have 58 Medicaids or Medicaid applications, we are also not receiving any IGT payments on those residents also. So we have a backlog of IGT payments that we will receive once these Medicaid applications have been processed. So our IGT cash flow is also diminished while we're waiting for these residents to get their applications processed.
Ms. Michaels, did you have a follow-up question you wanted to ask? Oh, Lloyd, sorry. Lloyd, I didn't see. Please go ahead.
I have a question. I'm going back to the caseworker. Now, my caseworker always would have my spend downs in place before you admitted in the hospital for service. And the way I hear you, it seemed to be that they're getting that done after they get in for service. And I can't understand that. Why is it that a caseworker supposed to see that you spend down, your extra help, and all these are in place before you admit it?
Well, in some of these cases, or in a lot of these cases, they are private pay residents that are then converting over to Medicaid. So again, we try to get these cases as soon as we can so we can start filing the application, and then we have to wait for the caseworker to review them and give us what that spend down amount is. So they're not coming from the hospital, they're not coming from home. They're already existing private pay residents of the facility that have used up all their assets.
Well, what I'm saying is, she knows that before she send you over to the hospital or to the nursing home, your caseworker knows that. Because it's processed. I'm talking about what happened to me. Mine always done that. And now I'm fixing to call Medicaid. I want to have a list of everybody that they pay. I like to know that. So I can't understand why you get left on the hook. Look like the stuff is being processed after it's already been serviced.
I really can't answer the question because we've been trying to get those questions answered of why, what's the holdup? But
Well, maybe I can enlighten you because I'm sending for a payout list on them. I want to know.
Are there any other questions on the presentation so far? Do you have more for us? Or,
yes, I do.
okay.
Food service. So food service is improving overall. So our staffing levels have improved. Right now, we probably have about 4 part-time food service worker positions that we're trying to fill. We have 1 full-time cook position that we're trying to fill. And again, one of the big problems that we're having is trying to find qualified applicants who can pass their background checks. We've just lost 2 applications last week because their background checks came back positive. And we can't hire those individuals. One of the quality indicators that we're looking at on a monthly basis is the last bullet, which is plating times, making sure that they are starting the production line on time for every meal service. And over the last 3 months, we have seen improvements in the plating times. But again, we're also looking at our Pinnacle scores. So what Pinnacle is an independent survey of 15 family members, random family members that are picked every month, and it's a telephone interview. Now, the interviews are actually not anonymous unless chosen by the family member. So any comments, positive or negative, we receive, and we will follow up specifically with those family members. But what I'm showing you here, too, is the 2 food service scores for dining service and food quality. So again, no surprise that we have seen a significant decline in our food scores through September. But in the month of October, we're starting to, and again, I know it's only 1 month, and the caveat I always tell my board of directors is it's based on 15 interviews. So it only takes a couple of bad ones or a couple of really good ones to change what the figures are. But we did see an uptick in the month of October, so I'm going to take credit that we're starting to see improvements. The other thing that is being done is that we do have a full-time dietitian that's been provided by the food service company, and she does her own informal survey. She will pick 30 random residents a month, and those scores have improved from about 58% in August, and in the month of November, the satisfaction score was up to 78% in the month of November. And again, the more subjective evidence is that we're seeing less complaints on a daily or weekly basis, and we're starting to see more compliments about the food service over the last few months. The last 2 slides are looking at the CMS 5-star quality rating. So this slide gives the history of Champaign County's 5-star rating going back to 2010. So the overall rating takes into account the other 3 categories, which is our survey ratings, which is a 3-year rolling look back of our survey history, our staffing levels, which is a snapshot of a payroll period right around our annual survey, and then the last one is quality measures. There are 9 quality measures that CMS uses to determine the overall star rating for the quality measures. So what you can see is on the overall rating, we actually got up to a 4-star rating in July of 2014. but because of the recent experience with our surveys, in our annual surveys in the month of September, our current rating has dropped back down, overall rating has dropped back down to 2 stars. And you can see our survey scores actually got up to 2 stars, but is back down to a 1 star. Our quality measures has shown steady improvement since 2010, and we remain at a 5-star rating for our quality measures. So that means that for those 9 quality measures, compared to all the other homes across the country, we're in the top 10%. Now, for a basis,
Sorry, Scott, real quick. Is that 15 samples negotiable at all? Or is it just every home gets 15 samples? So if you run a nursing home with 10,000 patients, they would still only go in and sample 15 people?
I am not sure if that's a standard amount that's done for every facility regardless of their size.
Because given the number of unique, I mean, every patient in the nursing home is a unique person with their own medical situation, their own challenges. The notion that we are, judging the quality of the entire home on the basis of 15 samples is, I mean, we might as well be throwing darts at the wall.
I would agree with that. But the other thing that they do is they accumulate an annual total. So one of the other things that I do that I've been showing the board of directors is what has been our annual average Pinnacle scores over the past 4 years. And so one of the things that we've actually talked about is doing a rolling 12-month history, because again, a sample size of over 100 over a 12-month period is going to be a lot more indicative of what's going on than what you're saying.
Oh, I'm
is a
sorry,
sample
so
size of
Scott,
15.
they do 15 a month?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was 15 a year.
No, I'm sorry, it's 15 a month.
That's much better, thank you.
I apologize for that. So the last slide compares Champaign County Nursing Home's 5-star rating with the other area facilities, just to give you a frame of reference. So again, Champaign County is at the top. So our overall rating is 2 stars. Our survey is down to 1 star. Staffing is 3. Quality measures is 5. But you can see compared to the other facilities, and again, Clark Lindsay is without question the Cadillac facility. They're all private paid. They don't take any Medicaid. And again, Country Health is the other high-rated facility. But our main competitors in our marketplace is Heartland and CUNR. And so again, not that we're going to be complacent with where we are, but we are doing everything we can to make sure that we're going to get our overall star rating as high as possible.
Are there any, Mr. Gima, are you, okay. Are there any other questions of Mr. Gima? I have 2, just building on a couple of the questions that Mr. Alex presented. The first is an information question. Is the total delay on everything connected with Medicaid solely at the state level, or is there a lag of the funds coming to the state from the federal level, which adds an overlay of the issues?
No. As soon as Medicaid pays their bills, or pays a facility, they submit it to the feds, and the feds immediately will give the matching dollars. But the matching dollars are not paid unless Medicaid pays the providers.
Okay. And then the second to the Pinnacle scores, and I've mentioned this previously, I've always understood it's 15 a month. My issue is that there are many different levels of service within the nursing home, and it isn't a stratified sample, so they could have 15 who happen to be in the dementia wing or 15 who happen to be in the rehab wing, taking it to the extremes. And I have continuously encouraged that somehow that 15 be done in a random stratified manner, and I continue to encourage that. We might get better data.
It is supposed to be a random sample. And we've noticed, because we'll take a look, because we also know who the residents that have been sampled every month. And we've pointed it out to Pinnacle that in some months, it's not completely random. And again, the response is that with the first 15 that they select, they'll make the phone calls. But if they don't receive a callback or can't contact the responsible party, they'll move on to the next name in the list. And sometimes it means that they'll have a higher concentration on one unit versus the other. But they do try to make it a sample of 15 random residents throughout the building.
Lloyd, do you have a comment? All right.
Now, does that mean, this 5-star, is that what we're at right now,
Correct,
at the top?
correct.
5-star?
For that one component, quality measures, our overall rating is 2 stars. So there's 3 components.
Well, I'm trying to get this board not to have the impression 2 different things here. And we shouldn't do that. When you talking about 5-star, that means you up there, brother. You ever been in a 5-star hotel?
No. Not lately.
Well, then, you should know that our facility, and I wish it was, I wish we could say it was 5-star, but that's a little bit high. And we shouldn't have the board to go, the other members here, I lived in there, I know, and the chair over there, Madam Chair, when you came to see me, do you think my room was 5-star?
I have not read the criteria
Now, wait, now,
that creates this.
You dealing with the taxpayers' facility here, and we supposed to be on the up and up. Because that goes in the newspaper. That we got a 5-star facility. And that means you charge 5-star money for going in that facility. See, that's why we get off the track. By being a little dishonest. And what it is, it is. Well, it seems like you're not going to answer my question.
Well, I think that you see one category that's 5 stars. I think what Mr. Gima is explaining to all of us, that there's several categories, and the average of those several categories comes out to be a 2-star. Do I understand correctly, Mr. Gima?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Yes, Jeff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Gima. So I'm going to talk to this particular slide for a moment because I do want to clear up some confusion, and please keep me honest if I say anything incorrect. So the overall rating is a combination of the 3. The only one that is conducted by an independent review would be surveys, where the state comes in, does an audit to review certain cases or issues. It may be an audit that the state plans every year. It may be an audit that is due, or survey that is due to some incident and they've been called in. Staffing and quality measures are self-reported. So if we're the ones that provide the state those measures. So if we are a high number of staffing and a high number of quality measures, those are things that we provide. So for example, quality measure include things broken down by short-term and long-term stay, how many patients suffered a high amount of pain, for example. That would be under a quality measures. But these are things that are reported, self-reported, not someone coming in and checking and seeing things as they go around, which is partly why surveys have such a high impact on the overall star rating. So everything I've said so far, correct?
Yes.
So for when you look at these ratings, Mr. Carter, you hit the nail on the head with respect to where are we really? From a quality measures point of view and from a staffing point of view, you can make the numbers look really good, which I'm not saying you're doing, but I'm saying that ultimately there are ways that you can get yourself elevated in the star level. Survey-wise, it's a little bit harder you really have to walk the walk, talk the talk, and get through it in order to have a high star rating on the surveys piece. So whenever, at least when I look at it, the one that really impacts me the most, at least when looking at it, is the survey piece. What are we doing when someone who shows up at our doorstep, what do they see? And the experts, when they come in, what do they see? So for us, a 2-star rating is better than a 1. Don't get me wrong. I think this shows that we're kind of in the middle, but there's definite room for growth. You mentioned that Clark Lindsay was the Cadillac. Probably is. That said, even if they took all the Medicaid or didn't take a single patient of Medicaid, it's really no excuse. And I don't think you're taking it as an excuse. But this board should not take that as an excuse. Quality of care should not be a function of payment. So Clark Lindsay, what can we do to emulate what they're doing? What do they have that we don't have? Is it the nursing staff, which I think the nursing staff at the CCNH is good. Is it facilities? What is it about Clark Lindsay? What is it about Country Health that make them have better surveys and better results all around? What can we do to improve those? So ultimately, money shouldn't matter in this equation. And ultimately, when comparing to other nursing homes, and I won't call them out, the big benefit that CCNH has, which is why we can accept such a high Medicaid rate, is that the county taxpayers pay a significant portion of to the nursing home for operations as well as for the building itself. So we're giving them a leg up. And granted, some would say we're not doing enough, some would say we're doing too much. But in the end, we are giving a few $1 million for the nursing home to operate and to open its doors and make sure that it's doing the best that it can. So with that money, I'm hoping, and I know you're with me, Mr. Gima, that we need to get our overall quality ratings up with the state. But the reason I wanted to speak was just to describe what these different ratings mean and how they can be impacted by the facility. So thank you.
Any other comments? I will entertain a motion to put Mr. Gima's report on file. Yes, what? Oh, you had more?
I had one question. Actually, my apologies. So beyond this slide, the prior slide where we talked about Medicaid pending versus private pay, currently in the accounts receivables, everybody's who's Medicaid pending is still qualified as private pay, correct?
Yes.
So what is the difference in terms of per day? Is it roughly $100 per day difference between a Medicaid patient versus a private pay patient?
It's about $35 per day.
$35 per day, so roughly $1,000 per month per individual. So we're talking about $50,000 to $75,000 of per month of the two. So if it takes a year, you're talking about $500,000 roughly of extra bump there between accounts receivable from what it truly is if they were all go Medicaid.
That's probably a close enough approximation.
Okay. That's what I need to know there. And the final piece is what's missing that I would love to see more of is employee metrics, actually seeing them on the board, internal surveys that we do with our employees to make sure that they feel that their voice is being heard. So anything we can do from an employee perspective, even at a high level, just to give guidance and tracking how good we're doing at retention and overall morale, that would be very helpful. So thank you.
All right, now I will entertain a motion to put Mr. Gima's report on file. Mr. Quisenberry?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion on his report beyond what we've had already? All right, those in favor of this report being put on file, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. And Mr. Gima, before you leave, the board just this evening approved Ms. Cowart and Mr. Kibler to be the new county board members on your board of directors for the nursing home. And they will see you next Monday on the 22nd when you have the December board meeting. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
All right, I want to ask folks, it's almost 2 hours. We have quite a bit of finance to go through. Would you like a 5-minute break so we just get up and stretch our legs and we'll be back in 5 minutes? Yes, all right, let's have a 5-minute break, back at 20 minutes after 8. Thank you very much.
Somebody's got to eat them, so just let them sit back.
So you guys will be doing business with Cuba pretty soon, huh?
I guess. Yep.
What's this whole big deal about MGOs?
GMOs.
GMOs.
Some people, I guess, still just don't trust them.
But you can harvest those seeds and grow them yourself, right? Because they're patented.
Most of them, yeah. I mean,
So it would be elite.
I think that maybe there are a few public, like, seems like soybeans or wheat.
So
There was maybe a soybean variety that came out from a public university, so that's out in the public. That is a GMO. So that, since where it came from, that particular variety, you could save it and plant it the next year.
Oh,
But most of the others, they have.
So you
they
have to
seed.
buy seeds every year?
Yeah, basically.
I had heard that Monsanto,
Yeah.
actually gave after the hurricane, gave Haiti free seeds, and they refused to accept them.
Yeah, some
Because
countries
they're-
don't like it.
Yeah.
Some countries, they don't have the seed technology fee, and they replant that stuff too.
Hey, he wasn't nuts. He was on the calendar for pictures.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden,
Yeah,
he said,
I'm a
"I'm
little
not
off
nuts."
sometimes. I don't put on the white shirt for anything.
I didn't have that. I don't know why I didn't.
Yeah, so she's been postponing until, I guess,
Oh,
the
I never thought of
replacement
that,
comes
yeah.
in.
I just figured they would tell us, so I wasn't.
Okay, has everybody gotten their cupcakes, coffee, water? All right. All right, I'm calling the meeting back to order. It looks like it's 24 minutes after 8. We're back in session. The next item on the agenda is county facilities, and Mr. Rosales, as the newly confirmed vice chair of that committee, will please handle that item.
Facility Committee moves the adoption of Resolution Number 9098, denying award of bid 2014-8, installation of boiler, air handling unit, and digital control at the Brookings Administration Center. Great, so moved. Thank you. Any questions? Quiz.
I'm just curious if we know what our next steps with this are.
After the board basically makes this decision not to award a contract based upon this bid, we will go back to the proposers, the vendors who bid on this contract, to talk with them about what issues caused this bid to come in so much higher than what was originally anticipated by our consultants, and we will bring it back to facilities for discussion at the January meeting.
Any further questions? All those in favor of denying the bid, say aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That's all for facility. Patsy, it's on you.
Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales. Next item on the agenda is environment and land use, and the newly confirmed chair of that, Mr. Esri, will you please handle those?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We have 4 items. I move an omnibus motion to approve the annual renewal of the recreation and entertainment licenses for Curtis Orchard Limited at 3902 South Duncan Road, Champaign, Illinois. Time period of January 1, 2015 through December 31st, 2015. Gordyville LLC, 2205 County Road 3000 North, Gifford, January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2015. The Oasis, 2705 County Road 3000 North, Penfield, January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2015. And the Tin Cup RV Park Incorporated, 1715 East Tin Cup Road, Mahomet, January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2015. And I will note, off the addendum, number 2, number 5 has been withdrawn. The Pink House is closing. I've been informed by Mr. John Hall.
Second.
Really? Wow.
Is there any discussion on the omnibus motion? Oh, there's sadness about the Pink House. Side conversation. Is there any discussion on this? All right. We'll entertain the vote for the omnibus bill. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed say nay. Ms. Schwartz corrected me during break. Thank you very much, Ms. Schwartz. The next item on the agenda is Highway and Transportation, and again, newly confirmed Chair of that committee, Ms. Coward. Would you please take care of those items? And did you want Mr. Blue to come forward in case there are any questions?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you.
The Highway and Transportation Committee, we didn't meet, but we still have 5 items on the agenda to be addressed. The first item is adoption of resolution number 9022, awarding contract for replacement of a bridge located in Kelowna Road District, section number 13-29998-00BR. And that's a move.
Second.
Do you have a comment, Ms. Busey?
Just one correction, the resolution number on your agenda was an error. It's actually Resolution 9102 that you're voting on.
Thank you for the correction. Are there any questions of Ms. Coward or Mr. Blue, since he is here? He's spent a long evening with us. Thank you very much for doing so. All of those in favor of adoption of resolution as corrected 9102, please indicate by aye. Those opposed by nay. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Coward, the next item.
The next item is adoption of resolution number 9039, awarding contract for replacement of a box culvert located in Hensley Road District, section number 14-12014-00BR, and I so move.
Second. Is there any discussion on this motion? All right, all those indicating approval of this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. Next item, Ms. Coward.
The next item is adoption of resolution number 9078, awarding of contracts for the furnish and delivery of an FOB of aggregated material for 2015 maintenance of various road districts in Champaign County, and I so move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Ms. Michaels? Oh, you were doing something else. All right, any discussion? All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. All right, next item.
Next item is adoption of resolution number 9079, approving appropriation of funds from the county fund pursuant to 605 ILCS 5/5-501, number 14-17016-00BR, and I so move.
Is there any discussion? Those who in favor of this motion will please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Last item.
The last item is adoption of ordinance number 955 for the establishment of an altered speed zone on TR 181A 1700 North in St. Joe Road District.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Those indicating approval of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Coward. The next, Jeff. Hey, thank you, Jeff. You've been very patient this evening. The next items have to do with finance. Mr. Alex, it is Diane, all right. Diane, please continue with those items. You have a long list of items, so.
Can I say
Yes,
something
ma'am.
now? Since Jeff has been here since the beginning, could his item come up first?
What,
Number 6? Okay, thank you.
Would that be okay with you, Madam Chair?
yes, and Ms. Cowart, thank you for pointing that out to us, appreciate it.
Mr. Alex, the chair has a little bit of loss of voice tonight. We did not have a finance committee meeting, so therefore I will read the resolutions here. First off, we're going to go ahead and do number 6, adoption of resolution number 9082, authorizing budget amendment 14-00050, Fund Department 084, County Bridge 060, Highway increased appropriations 230,000, increased revenue none. It's from the fund balance to pay for bridge projects built in 2014.
Is there any discussion or any questions for Jeff since he is still available? Yes, Mr. Harper.
Was this money that was in their budget from last year then to finish paying for those bridges? That's the way I'm reading it.
We maintain a fund balance from year to year, and this is just money coming from that fund balance because you just don't know when a bridge project is actually going to final out, when we're going to have to make the final payments. We might build it in July and not pay for it till next July, depending on how long the paperwork takes.
Any other questions? All right, those, oh, that's right, I knew that. Roll call vote, please.
Anderson. Aye. Bergson. Carter. Cowart. Esri.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hartke. Jay. Kibler.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Mitchell. Quisenberry.
Yes.
Rosales.
Yes.
Schrader. Schwartz. Weibel. Alex. Petrie.
Yes. Ms. Michaels, do you want to go?
Yes, ma'am. I'd
Okay,
like to
to
finish.
the first item. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to move adoption of resolution number 9080, authorizing payment of claims authorization.
Second.
Have moved in second.
Did you have, oh, you were just seconding, you didn't have a
Any
question?
discussion?
Yeah. Any discussion? That's all right. We're all learning. This can be a voice vote, so those who approve this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Next item.
Number 2, adoption of resolution number 9081, authorizing purchase not following the purchasing policy.
Any discussion? Those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, next item.
Item number 3, adoption of ordinance 953, establishing an enterprise zone in the city of Champaign and Champaign County.
Any discussion? Mr. Alex.
Just like to mention, board members probably got a letter from the state's attorney. A number of these items with regard to the Champaign Enterprise Zone have been modified in the version that we have in the packet to include a, what's the word, survivability, severability clause.
Right.
There are some incentives proposed in the Champaign Enterprise Zone which would potentially preference minority-owned businesses or female-owned businesses, and it's not entirely clear, I guess, whether those would withstand legal scrutiny. So it's Champaign's problem to make sure that they do, but the severability clause essentially protects us in the event that they don't. It maintains the rest of the provisions of the zone in force in case they don't.
Thank you for that added explanation. That would help everyone. Is there any other discussion or questions? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Nay.
Number 4.
Yes, please,
Number
move
4,
forward.
adoption of ordinance number 956 to authorize property tax abatement for certain property improvements in Champaign Enterprise Zone.
Second, Mr. Mitchell. Any discussion or questions? All right, those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Nay. Please
Number
go
5,
ahead.
adoption of resolution number 9049, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Champaign and Champaign County for management of the City of Champaign, Champaign County Enterprise Zone.
A second, please. Second, Ms. Coward. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Those who approve of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against signify by saying nay. All right, go ahead.
Next one, since we've done number 6, number 7, adoption of resolution number 9083, authorizing budget amendment 14-00051, Fund Department 080, General Corporate, to 017 Cooperative Extension Services, increased appropriations of 533, increased revenue of 533. Reason was the amount was needed to pay a final distribution from year 2013 due to increase in payment of taxes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson? Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Harrison?
Yes.
Hartke? Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
McGuire? Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell? Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Alex? Petrie?
Yes.
Number 8, adoption of resolution number 9084, authorizing budget amendment 14-00052, Fund Department 107, Geographic Information System to 010, County Board. Increased appropriations of $1,268, revenue none, because it's from the fund balance. The reason is that is an amendment that's needed to pay for the balance of membership fees for the GIS Consortium. The account was short due to a purchase of Argus software for the senior planner and the Planning and Zoning Department.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Harrison?
Yes.
Hartke? Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
McGuire? Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell? Quisenberry? Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Alex? Petrie?
Yes. Proceed.
Number 9, adoption resolution number 9085, authorizing budget amendment 14-00053, Fund Department 080, General Corp, to the Coroner 042, increased appropriations of $22,950 coming from the fund balance, and the reason is because additional fundings are needed for toxology and autopsy expenses for fiscal year 14.
Thank you, Ms. Coward. Any questions or discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Anderson? Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Harrison?
Yes.
Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
McGuire? Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell? Quisenberry? Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Alex? Petrie?
Yes. Proceed.
Number 10, adoption resolution number 9090, authorizing budget amendment 14-00054, Fund Department 106, Public Safety Sales Tax Fund to 013, Debt Service, increased appropriations $11,763,594, revenue being the same. The reason is for the Series 2014 refunding of bonds.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson? Yes. Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Oh, sorry. Alex? Petrie?
Yes.
Number 11, adoption of resolution number 9086, authorizing budget amendment 15-00001, Fund Department 075, Regional Planning Commission to 625, Compromise Township Construction, increased appropriations of $12,000, increased revenue of the same. Reason to accommodate receipt of a new contract to administer the DCEO grant for construction of an operations building on behalf of the Township of Compromise.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson? Yes. Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Jay? Kibler? McGuire? Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Quisenberry? Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Alex? Petrie?
Yes.
Moving number 12, adoption of resolution number 9087, authorizing budget amendment 15-00002, Fund Department 075, Regional Planning Commission to 629, the Village of Gifford Construction, increased appropriation 17,000, revenue the same 17,000. The reason to accommodate receipt of a new contract to administrator the DCEO grant to cover partial construction costs for new Gifford Village Town Hall, prior building destroyed in the tornado of November 2013.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Jay? Kibler? McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell? Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Alex? Petrie?
Yes. Go ahead.
Moving number 13, adoption of resolution 9088, authorizing budget amendment 15-00003, Fund Department 075, Regional Planning Commission to 755, Champaign Park District Trails Plan, increased appropriations 25,000, revenue the same. Reason to create a new fiscal year 15 department to accommodate receipt of a contract to create a master trails plan for the Champaign Park District.
A second, please. Ms. Bergson, thank you for the second. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Weibel? Alex? Petrie?
Yes.
Number 14, adoption of resolution number 9089, authorizing budget amendment 15-0004, Fund Department 075, Regional Planning Commission to 775, City of Champaign, Bristol Place Case Management, increased 40,000, revenue, increased appropriations 40,000, revenue 40,000. The reason to create a fiscal year 15 department for receipt of new contract with the City of Champaign to provide case management services for Bristol Place residents received after the budget process.
Thank you, Mr. Esri. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Alex?
Yeah, Deb, didn't we already do this? Did we? Oh, we did. Well, this is a contract that continues across the fiscal year. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson? Bergson? Carter. Cowart. Esri.
Yes.
Harper. Harrison.
Yes.
Jay. Kibler. McGuire. Michaels.
Yes.
Mitchell. Quisenberry. Rosales.
Yes.
Schrader. Schwartz. Weibel. Alex. Petrie.
Yes.
Number 15, move adoption resolution 9091, authorizing the execution of a deed of conveyance for the county's interest or cancellation of the appropriate certificate of purchase on real estate, permanent parcel number 91-21-04-251-007.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Any questions or discussion? This will be a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Number 16, adoption of resolution 9097, authorizing the renewal of the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority's prosecutor-based Victim Assistance Services Program grant for Champaign County State's Attorney Office.
Mr. Esri, thank you very much. Any questions or discussion? Again, this is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Number
Go ahead.
17, adoption of resolution 9099, amending the 2015 schedule of authorized positions for probate and court services, probation and court services.
Again, thank you, Mr. Esri. Any questions or discussion on this? I do think there was some question that you had that you presented to Ms. Busey about it. Are you satisfied with the answer?
I am satisfied with the answer, yes.
All right, thank you very much. Again, this is a voice vote, so all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. All right, next one.
Yes, we have two addendums.
Yes, right.
First one being number 18, adoption of resolution number 9100, authorizing budget transfer number 14-00015, Fund Department 080, General Corp. to 041, State's Attorney, the total amount being $11,750, as an increase in appropriations for the following: remaining costs for translating and transcribing costs in 5 related felony cases, professional expenses of forensic pathologist in recent murder case, and the other end-of-the-year expenses.
Thank you, Mr. J. Is there any questions or discussion on this? Yes, Mr. Alex.
Deb, do we need to talk to Julia about this and see whether she thinks this is anomalous or whether we need to look at this in the 2015 budget?
I have talked to her about it, and this was a unique case that drove this cost up. So,
Okay, so she doesn't think we're going to or there's no reason to expect that we'll overspend those in the fiscal year 15 budget?
no.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. This is a roll call vote.
Anderson. Yes. Bergson. Carter. Cowart. Esri.
Yes.
Harper. Harrison.
Yes.
Jay. Kibler. McGuire. Michaels.
Yes.
Mitchell. Quisenberry. Rosales.
Yes.
Schrader. Schwartz. Weibel. Alex. Petrie.
Yes. The last item.
And finally,
Thank
number
you.
19 on the other addendum that you have at your desk, adoption resolution 9101, authorizing budget transfer 14-00013 from 080 General Corporate to 030 the Circuit Clerk, $3,500 as a transfer of funds to cover office supplies.
Thank you, Mr. Gimbler. Any questions or discussion on this one? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson. Bergson. Carter. Cowart. Esri.
Yes.
Harper. Harrison.
Yes.
Jay. Kibler. McGuire. Michaels.
Yes.
Mitchell. Quisenberry. Rosales.
Yes.
Schrader. Schwartz. Weibel. Alex. Petrie.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Michaels. That was a long list of items to go through. The last one, Mr. Quisenberry, newly approved Chair of Policy. The calendar for 2015, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move adoption of resolution number 9092, approving the Champaign County Board 2015 calendar of meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Any questions or discussion or things as you review the calendar that you'd like to bring up at this moment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Thank you very much. The calendar is set for 2015. Last few items. Any other business anybody wants to bring to the attention of the board? I can see everybody's ready to go home. Any new business? Other than I wish everybody a happy holiday season. See everybody in January. A motion to adjourn, please. Mr. Kibler and Ms. Bergson, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.